A lot of times you look and you think, I don't know, is the cure going to be worse than the disease? Like, I think I'd rather just have high cholesterol thing.
Hello, and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter. Today, we're exploring what happens when faith, science, and family collide. We're joined by our guest, Teri and Brown, author and host of Online for Authors podcast. Hello, Teri. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here today.
Well, I'm excited to have you with us today. Okay. Let me ask you this question. As one podcaster to another, what's the best or funniest thing that ever happened to you behind the mic?
So the coolest thing actually was I was on a podcast. I was the host, and I was chatting with an author, and all of a sudden her eyes got huge, and I could hear this horrible noise in the background. There was an earthquake happening. Now, it turned out not to be anything bad. It didn't damage her. It didn't damage her facility. It didn't. But I actually caught live an earthquake, which I just thought was like, how crazy is it that you would be in that place at that time? So yeah, I caught an earthquake.
Oh, wow.
It was really weird.
I guess do a podcast with, mine is very, very small compared to yours. I was doing a show, interviewing someone, and my earphones happened to fall right off as I was talking, went zoom right there. So we both smiled. I just picked it up and put it back on.
Right.
That's about it.
Well, the worst thing that ever happened to me was that I forgot to hit record. And I was a full 10 minutes into the video when I realized that I was not recording and we had to start again. That's horrible. That just makes you feel like the worst podcaster ever when you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't hit record. So, yeah.
But it's not so bad. At least it was 10 minutes. 10 minutes seemed like a long time, I know. But at least it wasn't the whole show.
Thing. Right.
The whole show. Right. And sometimes certain words or guest name I cannot pronounce very well. Oh my God. I try to practice and sometimes it still comes out wrong. And the guest will say, don't worry about it because I've been on other shows. They do the same thing.
Yeah. I have my mouth really is an English speaking mouth. And if there are any names that are different, that have some of those different sounds, I have real trouble with them. So it's same as you. I have to practice. I have to think over and over. And unfortunately, sometimes I will think I know how to say a name. And in my mind, it's what I've been saying. Then I find out at showtime that I'm wrong. And now it's like, oh goodness, now I have to figure out how to do it correctly over and over. So
wow. And sometimes certain words I can't pronounce. I don't know, when I was younger, I did all right, but as I got older, I don't know what it is. But anyway, going on, moving along. What first led you to writing and how did you feel when you received the awards?
Yes. So the first thing that led me to writing, it's kind of like a long story. It wasn't a direct anything, but I started writing for small businesses in 2000. You figure the internet was rather new. Small businesses were starting to put their websites up and they weren't doing a very good job of what they were actually writing. And I found this nice niche that allowed me to stay home with my children and still bring in a little bit of an income. But I really, 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 really wanted to write fiction. And I was just terrified to try. I was also living in an abusive relationship at the time. And so it just wasn't the right space for me to spread my wings and throw myself out there. But I got out of that relationship in 2017.
Great.
And as soon as I did, I began writing, words were falling out of me, but I was still terrified to let anyone see them because I didn't think I was good enough. I met Bruce, who became my husband, and he has always wanted to ride across the United States on a tandem bike or on a bicycle. And I wanted to do something adventurous. So we chose to ride across on a tandem bicycle. And we did that in 2020. And as we're finishing up that ride, I thought, I just rode across the United States on a tandem bicycle. I can do anything. What do I want to do? And I said, I want to be an author. And 14 months later, my first novel came out. And so it was just a really like amazing experience to have that happen. And then the first award, oh, I cried. I just sobbed. It was like, oh my gosh, there's something about having someone else tell you, yes, your book is good enough. Especially for someone who really had doubted herself for so long. So
I know that is really, really good. You got that confidence. You got that confidence. Now, there's some people who write books. I told someone, I told another guest one day, everyone think they're an author. They can write. My niece wrote a book, and I think she got to maybe the first 4 pages, and she threw it away. She said the English was bad, everything. You need someone to edit, to go over your work.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer in having a good editor. As an author, I know what I meant. I know what my characters feel. I know all of that. And sometimes I don't let my readers know it well enough, but I'm unaware of it because I know. And so I'll have an editor come back and say, well, Teri, I don't understand the character's motivation here.
Okay.
And you're like, well, how can you not understand it? Well, she doesn't understand it because the character's not living in her head, and I didn't do a good enough job explaining it. So it's really good to have someone who comes along and tells you the places that are weak, where something didn't make sense, where your grammar was just horrible, all of those things that they can fix. And it takes your book from good to really good, and so an editor is absolutely essential. Even for people who self-publish, you should definitely hire an editor.
That's what I do. I self-publish books. I remember I was writing one book. I write just stage plays. And I wrote, and believe it or not, it might sound crazy. I had a little bit of tears in my eyes. And I said, I'm sorry. In this play, you got it down.
Yes.
I said, you get emotional. You got it down. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah. Yeah. That happens. I have one book and I have my stepdaughter. She came barreling into my office, scared me to death, and she screamed, "You killed the grandma!" And I said, "No, I didn't kill her. She died. She was older and she passed away." But she was like, "I can't believe you did it." And I was like, but sometimes it's what the story requires.
And you can see the characters in your head. You could see them clearly in your head. If you can't see them clearly, it's nothing to write. It's blank. You have nothing there. Sometimes I would, if you get like writer's block, I would just stop because don't use writing because you can't think of anything. And I will come back later. And sometimes I end up tearing up 3 pages or so and I start fresh. That's me though. I get these other ideas, but that's what happens as a writer. That's what happens, writer to writer. All right. Your novel, Daughters of Green Mountain Gap, ties together faith, science, and family. So which of those 3 was the most challenging to write?
For me, I think it's not the hardest, but the most important for me is making sure that I get the relationships right. Making sure that the mother and daughter relationship feels real, that the granddaughter relationship feels real, that if someone's reading this, that they might be able to see themselves or someone they know in these pages. And so I don't know that it was the hardest, but it was definitely the family relationships were the ones that really mattered to me more than anything else. And then next comes being accurate in terms of like, I write a lot of historical fiction. And so I want to make sure that portion is accurate. I don't want to be telling falsehoods. I don't want people to come back to me and say, this could have never happened because, and I'm not saying I do it perfectly, but I try to do a lot of research and make sure that I'm as accurate as I can be, given I didn't live there.
Right.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, you have to be accurate in your work. A lot of research goes into it. People don't realize it's a lot of work. You just don't sit there just write. It's a lot of work that goes behind that.
Absolutely. And there's even a lot of research that goes into contemporary novels.
Right.
Because, you know, like I just finished a contemporary novel. It hopefully will come out in the spring. And, you know, I have her as a real estate agent. Well, I've not been a real estate agent. So I had to do some work to find out, like, what happens in her day to day. Can she do this thing that I want her to do? Would it be possible? And those kinds of things. And so you do just have to make sure that what you're saying is accurate enough that it doesn't pull your reader out of the story. You don't want them to be reading along, so excited to be in your book, and then go, "Ooh, that could have never happened."
That's right. You
Right?
absolutely just like looking at a TV show. That
Right.
never happened. That really exaggerated on that. They didn't do their research.
So there's a funny story about this. My husband worked at the CIA working on their grounds. So he was the one who did all of the maintenance from the fences all the way inside. And so he did all of that. And he would watch some of these spy movies and they would show like an interior room of the CIA. And he'd say, "Yeah, that room doesn't exist. There's no such thing as that." You know, and it made me laugh because for him, because they didn't do their research or because they didn't really care, right?
I was going to say, right.
You know, they just made the CIA building whatever it is they wanted it to be, and he'd go, or, you know, they would show some man like crawling through the ductwork, and he'd say, "Yeah, that would never happen. It couldn't happen in the CIA building that I took care of." You know, there's no way. So I just found that really interesting.
Wow. Okay. I know. I've watched TV and other talk shows. The same thing you're saying. I said that never happened. That's
Couldn't
not
have
true.
happened. That just
or
TV. those shows where there's like 4,000 people shooting guns and nobody's getting hit. You know, and you're like, what? Or the people who are driving the fast cars and they're like jumping over curbs and driving up on sidewalks and their door falls off and all, but the car keeps running. And you're like, there's just no way. You know, your car and my car would have stopped long before this, right? And so sometimes you have to be able to but when I write, I don't want my audience to say, "That could have never happened." I want them to really feel like they're part of it.
I guess when they watch it on TV, it's like, I guess just entertainment.
Yes.
And I hope people do not try some of these things.
Seriously.
There are people out there who would try some of these things.
Absolutely.
You know. But anyway, okay. Why did you set your novel in the mountains in the early 1900s before we were born? Well, yeah.
Yeah. For us. I set it there because I wanted to talk about things from the past and things from, you know, more modern coming together. And so I'm talking about a healer, and she's a granny woman. And a granny woman is someone who uses roots and herbs and what I say is a little bit of mountain magic, this just ability to like really tune into her patients and know the things to do. And I wanted her daughter to want to be a healer, but to want to do it differently. So I set it in 1890s because I knew that Florence Nightingale had already kind of made a name. Now modern nursing was coming to the forefront. So I was able to have Maggie, who's the granny woman, I had her daughter go to become a nurse. And she tried to bring modern medicine back to the area. And so it set up a nice little, you know, conundrum between, you know, is it the old that's better or the new that's better? You know, which way should medicine go? And I said it in the North Carolina mountains because the Appalachian area did have the granny women. And I live in North Carolina, and I love always putting a nod to North Carolina.
You said the 1800s. I'm sorry. I said 19.
That's all right. That's all right. It was 18.
Well,
it was 1800. So it was 1890. So it was right there on the cusp. It was right on the cusp. Yes.
Type era. All right. I know you talk about remedies. I know from my grandmothers, I didn't really know them really, but for my parents, they would do home remedies, like if you have a cold, certain things like that. They would use that, and it would work. Yeah. Instead
Oh,
of
yeah.
going to the store and buying, spending a lot of money, something that do have to go to the, get prescription for. All right,
Right.
people. But there's certain things you do not have to. It's right in your home. The medicine is right in your home. You don't
Right.
even know it.
Well, and that's one of the things that I tried to kind of point out in this book is that I wouldn't want to go back to the 1890s in medicine. At that time, when someone had diabetes, for instance, they were bloodletting as a way of helping with diabetes. Nobody wants to go back to that. On the other hand, we've gotten to a place in modern medicine where we almost don't listen to the patient. You know, we've got this is what we do when this happens, and they don't look at you as a person. I would love to see more of the two coming together. This ability to use some of this modern medicine that we have, which is very good, but to also have that ability to look at your patient and see what your patient needs versus what some document says that we do for, this is always what we do. My husband, had cancer, and they would often say, well, this is protocol. And I would say, yeah, we don't protocol my husband. I need you to look at him as him, and then let's determine the next best thing to do. And so that was kind of something that stuck in me as well, is trying to show that sometimes we throw out the old when something new and shiny comes along, and we don't need to throw it out. We just need to save the best of both.
That's true. You ever notice that, when go to doctors, get prescription for medicine, I look at the back of the bottle, no, I look on they have the paper that comes with the,
right,
that comes with it.
7,000 things that could go wrong with you. Yes.
Right. It could cause death.
Yeah.
Could stop breathing.
Yeah.
Have a heart attack.
Yeah.
Have a stroke. I said, oh my goodness.
I know. And some of that, of course, is because they have to let you know that there's a possibility of anything. And so they just cover themselves to make sure that they've told you. But yeah, a lot of times you look and you think, I don't know, is the cure going to be worse than the disease? Like, I think I'd rather just have high cholesterol. Thanks. I don't know. It just, yeah.
I know. And it's scary. Sometimes I'm just afraid to look.
Yeah.
To see the side effects, and if you're choking, this and that, I'll, call the emergency or 911. If I could do that.
So it's interesting. I tend not to look at the side effects.
I stopped doing that in ways.
I tend to take the meds, and if I start feeling weird and I notice something, I'll note it. And if it continues, then I go look at the side effects to see if this medicine is causing that. And often it is, but at least then I know that I didn't conjure it up in my mind. I didn't say, oh my gosh, I'm going to start feeling faint, and
true.
Instead it's like, oh, I'm feeling dizzy. Why am I feeling dizzy? And it goes on for a couple of days, and then I look and it's like, oh, it can cause dizziness. Good to know. And now you can make an informed decision. Do I want to stay with the med, or do I want to talk to my doctor about trying something different instead? So
one more thing about the medicine. I was taking some medicine and it was working, and then realized a few days later, I looked and it was expired. And I told my doctor, but the medicine's still working. He said, oh, just to make money.
Yeah, it is. A lot of times, they have to put an expiration on it, partially because, it could start to degrade,
Right.
But most of the time, I would say, unless you're talking about, 20 years out of date, I suspect it's going to be doing all right. Of course, I'm not a doctor, people. I am not a doctor. Do not take medical advice from this show.
That's right. We just talking.
We're just chatting.
Podcast hosts. Yeah, two podcasts. Okay. How accurate and detailed was your research into the Cherokee healing tradition in your novel, Traditions?
It was as accurate as I could make it. I actually found a wonderful website. The Cherokee tribe that lives in North Carolina has a website. And I went to that website, and I felt that the information I found there would be as accurate as possible. It's their website. It's what they want the world to understand about them. And I found quite a few good sources that I was able to go back and read through. I even found an old journal that had different different ceremonies and other things that had been written down. It was very interesting. So I tried to be as accurate as possible. Once again, remembering I didn't live in the 1890s.
Right.
I am not Cherokee or of Cherokee descent. I, have never witnessed any of these things. So, I always put a little disclaimer in there that I try to be as accurate as possible. This one took me a little longer to write. My husband was ill during that period of time, so I didn't have the time to spend on it that I normally did. But I'd say it was about a year from start to finish.
It takes time.
It
Doing
does.
that. It's a lot of work that goes behind it. People think you could just, like I said before, you could just write and that's it, but it's a lot more to that.
I usually can get a first draft done pretty quickly if I have time. If the world allows me to do what I love to do. I like to go to a residency. Get away from my house, spend like 2 weeks away from here where no one expects me to do anything other than write. And in that period of time, I can usually get a first draft done, but it's not pretty. I wouldn't show it to anyone. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done, but at least the story is out of my head and out on paper. But in the case of Daughters of Green Mountain Gap, I was never able to go take that kind of trip because my husband was ill. And so I had to find little fits and pieces, and it was a lot harder. It's when I'm writing like for 2 weeks, I can stay so focused and I know what needs to come next and I'm just really in a groove. But when you start and stop and start and stop and start and stop, it's a little harder to pick up where you left off. And so there's more time spent trying to get back in the groove than there is like when I do a retreat.
You're absolutely right about that. That's true. I like to get away too. It makes, I don't know, it does something to you to get away to write. It does something to you,
Even for me, just going to like a coffee shop or something that's not here at my house, I find to be very beneficial. I am really good at tuning out outside noise. And so I get into a coffee shop and I can tune all that out because it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's noise, but it's not aimed at me. And so I kind of tune it out. And then when I do, it just allows me to really focus in and I can just get so much done. At home, the noises often pertain to me. And it's harder to drown them out, right? Like, you hear the buzzer go on your dryer. That's for me. And it's hard for me to ignore it, but I hear a buzzer in a coffee shop. That's not for me.
Understand that.
Yeah.
At home, it pertains to you, but you someplace else it doesn't pertain to you.
Yeah. And for me, it's really a good play. That's a good way to write, is to not have home interfering. I have found I have an upstairs bonus room that I just rarely use. I don't need the space. And I have found that if I go up there to write, I write better because I don't hear what's going on downstairs.
Oh, okay.
So that also helps. I think it's just an idea of getting away from my normal life. So whatever that is, if I can find a way to step outside of that.
Okay. What is the ultimate message you hope readers take away from healing and progress? We talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, I think, first of all, that there isn't one right way. If we understood medicine 100%, there wouldn't be people dying needlessly of horrible things, and people still die. And so we don't have it right yet. So let's keep a little bit of an open mind about, possibilities and things that are out there. A general idea of when we get something new, it doesn't mean we have to throw away the old. It means that we can take a look and see. And then I think generally just things about like families and relationships. And also because Maggie brings back some of this Cherokee medicine to her town, a lot of people don't like it. They're very disgusted by the fact that she has been talking to what they assume are savages. And, how dare she? And so I think it's a good lesson into, the idea of like racism and xenophobia and this idea of other people who are different from you in whatever way also have value and have things of value to share. And that you don't have to believe everything a person says to find value in some of what they have. And so I think that ability to say, I don't believe this, but I see that they do this and this is a good thing, to be able to pick from that and say that it's okay to accept, things from other cultures, things from other languages, other lands.
So don't be so judgmental and think that
Yeah.
your way is the right way.
Your way
Everything you
is
do is the
one
right
way.
way.
Your way is
Hmm.
one way. And
That's
it may
right.
actually be the right way for you.
Right. For your culture. Right. For
Or
you.
even just for you personally, that's
True.
okay. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the only way and the right way. And sometimes there's really more than one right way. I think about that like writing a book. There are people who plot a book and there are people who pants a book. I pants. I have no idea where I'm going and I just start writing. And I've been told, oh, that's a terrible way to write a book. Okay, it's terrible for you, but it works for me. And so I just think that's the way it is in life. There are so many things that just because it works for you doesn't mean it'll work for me. And just
That's
because it
true.
doesn't work for you doesn't mean it won't work for me. I mean, there's a lot of things out there. And wouldn't it be so much nicer in the world if we could just accept that?
It would be
Yeah.
less headache, less trouble.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyway, how do you balance being an author, a podcaster, and a traveler?
Uh, I don't know. I really don't know. People ask me all the time, like, how do you do all of that? It's like, I
Uh-huh.
don't know. I think part of it is I'm very, I have a list. Every morning I wake up, I have a list of things I know I need to get done that day. I'm very methodical that way. I make sure that I get done those things that have to be done. Um, that helps a lot, being that regimented. And it's kind of funny. I'm that regimented in my life, but when it comes to writing, that's not the way I write at all. I'm very
Okay.
free form and everything. It's really crazy. But I think that's part of it, and scheduling in what it is that you want to do. So, I want to travel. Like I'll be gone, most of July. I'm going to be in
Oh.
Greece. I'm super excited about that.
Ooh.
Yeah, I get to go on a writer's retreat in Greece. I'm super
Oh,
excited.
wow.
But in order to do that and have my podcast continue, I'm going to have to get some things scheduled early and have them run through the time I'm going to be gone, because I have zero desire to do any podcasting while I'm gone. I want to
Of
focus
course.
entirely on what I'm doing. And so that's part of it, is I schedule it. I make sure that it can happen. I want to do this 3 weeks away. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to do a
Mm.
few things on the front end to make that happen.
Well, tell us something about you that we haven't discussed. I mean, like, say, you're a traveler, podcaster, you're author. What else can you tell us
I love to
about
walk.
you?
I love to walk on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love. I live real close to the beach, and I love to get up in the morning and watch the
Oh,
sun come up. And I don't mean fast walking. I don't mean, I like to just walk out on the beach
take your
and watch
time,
the
right?
sunrise. And there is
Mm.
something so inspiring about that and calming. And there were a lot of
Yes.
times, especially during my husband's illness, where, you feel like the world is closing in on you and it's just, very difficult. And I would get out there, and as soon as I would see the water and I would hear the sounds and the birds and the sun and the wind, and I could feel my whole body decompressing. Just, and by the end of my walk, I realized, no matter what's going on at home right now, the waves are going to come in and out. The tide's going to come up and down. The sun's going to rise and set. And it's going to happen tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that. And not that my problems aren't big for me, but they're not world changing. The world's
Mhm.
going to keep doing what the world's doing. And it's kind of just reminds you of your place. That yes, it's big for me, but it's not going to end the important things. I'm religious, so it doesn't end
Good,
God. It
good. Me
doesn't end
too.
his love.
Okay,
It
right.
doesn't end all of it. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what it does, is it just gives me a sense of balance.
I love that you talk about walking along the beach. I love that. Oh, that's so serene, so peaceful.
It is. And I see several sunrises a week, and I've yet to see the same sunrise.
Mm.
They're always different. Something is different. The way the clouds are, or the way the ocean is that day, or, you know, I don't know. It's always different. I've never seen the same sunrise twice, and I find that to be fascinating.
Sort of like leave the world behind. What I mean by
Yeah.
that, leave the world behind, all the craziness that's going
Yes.
on.
Yeah. All of the hustle and the bustle and
Bustle.
the things that keeps your mind racing. I often say at the beginning of my walk, you can tell I'm just getting started because I'm a little more focused and a little more. By the end of the walk, I don't know, I'm almost walking with the waves. You just kind of get into that, I don't know, like you just become part of the ocean. You just become part of what you see there. And then I can start my day. Then you can come home, you can tackle anything. You're in the right mindset.
Mm. That sounds, and I feel peace.
Yes. Yeah. It's very peaceful. It's very peaceful.
Yes.
I think it's very
Whew.
healing. There's something about the
It
beach that's
is.
very healing.
It is. Your heart not going pat, 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 pat,
Yeah.
pat. Your blood pressure's not going up.
Yeah.
And one thing, if you go with some friends or people, leave the ones who are troublemakers behind.
Yeah. Don't
not
take someone
bring-
who's going to complain the whole way. You want
That's
someone who's
right.
just who's going to see the beauty of it. I'm always just surprised at how beautiful, even on days where it shouldn't be beautiful. I went out one time and it was so overcast and there wasn't even going to be a sunrise you could see. Like you were never going to know except it got a little lighter. And on that day, instead of looking up and at the sky, I was kind of looking more down and I found some of the most beautiful shells, that I wouldn't have seen
Yes.
if I'd been looking at the beautiful orange sky. And so, I
Right.
just think that there's always something at the beach to find.
How has writing your novel and managing your diverse career changed your overall perspective on the world?
I think that it's opened me up to a lot of new ideas and new thoughts. And it has given me the ability to kind of check myself and look inside of myself and say, here I wrote about someone who, was being racist. And then you can stop and take a look at yourself. Do I have any of that in me? And if I do, what can I do about it? And if I say I don't, am I lying to myself? What is there in me? And so I think it's really opened up my eyes to a wider world and given me a chance to really check myself and see, am I the person that I want to be? And if the answer's no, what can I do to fix that? Like, how can I become more closely aligned with who I think I am?
Right. That's I like that. You sit back and you think about it. The changes, all the changes that you can make. And you
Right.
say, yes, they all change. Just changes we all can make.
And I hope that for me that the answer is always yes. Because I don't want to ever think that I have come to this perfected place because I'll never achieve it. Not here, not in this world. And so I hope that I'm always looking and striving and finding, even if it's something small, something that you can do, like things like remember to be grateful every day. Before you go to bed at night, is there one thing that you can find to be grateful for, even on a really horrible day? Is there something you can find to be grateful for? Is there a way that you can do something kind every day?
And it is something you can do.
And so if the answer is, well, I don't normally think about that, well, now start thinking about it. Maybe you already do something kind every day, but it is more effective for you if you remember that you've done it, if you focus on it and realize, oh, I am being kind, because then it helps you to be kind in other situations. And so I always think that there's room for growth.
It's always room for growth. I was telling someone I don't care how old you are, to me, you can always learn.
Oh, yeah, I hope so.
Learn about something. You always learn about something. You're never too old. At our young age, we have a long way to go.
I have so many more years.
Okay. What about what's coming up now? Projects. You gonna write some more? I know
Yeah.
you have several novels, I believe. Do you have
Yes,
several
so
novels out?
I have 3 novels out. I have Sunflowers Beneath the Snow, An Enemy Like Me, and Daughters of Green Mountain Gap. Then I have my inspirational memoir, 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure, which is about us riding across the United States on a tandem
Right.
bicycle. I have a children's book because my
Oh.
granddaughter asked me, Gigi, when are you going to write a book for me? And I said, now. And so it's Little Lola and Her Big Dream. And then I have a short story in 2 different anthologies, Feisty Deeds 1 and Feisty Deeds 2. And then this spring, I have a new book coming out. It's called Peg Unhinged. It's about a woman going through menopause, and it is contemporary and it's humor, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And then I have another short story coming out in an anthology called Carolina Tides. So that's kind of what's
Wow.
coming up for me right now. Yeah.
You're busy, busy,
I
busy,
am
busy
busy.
bee.
I like being busy. It's good for me.
How can people follow you? Where can they follow you and purchase your books?
Yeah, the best place to go is start out at my website, which is my name, Teri M. Brown, and that's Teri with 1 R. There you can purchase all my books. You can sign up for my newsletter. You can follow my podcast, which is called Online for Authors. I also have a little mini podcast now called The Book Hook. So there's a lot of things there. All my social media links are there, so you can find me that way as well. And then I just have a general contact me page. So if you want to just reach out and ask me a question, you can do that there as well.
Well, I'll tell you, it's been a joy talking to you today. I really,
Thank you.
really had a good time.
So did I. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. For our viewers at home watching, if you like what you see, subscribe to The Jocelyn Moore Show. Want to be a guest on our show? Head over to our website, www.jamentertainment.info. On the homepage, click on About and follow directions to be a guest. If you have any questions about today's show or past or future shows, just click Contact on our website and submit a message. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care and keep watching.